I have grown tired of comic book movie slop. In the past few years, I've seen less comic book media in theaters and even not watched some of it at all. I haven't seen Captain America: Brave New World or The Marvels. We shouldn't even mention the amount of Marvel television I've skipped. Kevin Feige would have to put me on payroll to watch Secret Invasion. DC lost me even more with the last movie I've seen from them being Black Adam. The Rock truly changed the hierarchy of the DC universe and my pants with that absolute cinema. This is all to say that comic book movies, at least for me, have been dead and dry. There's been no juice, no energy, no true excitement. Everything has looked like, and based off reviewers and friends I trust, cafeteria food levels of films. Just tasteless, boring slop. That was until I saw the Superman trailers. The Superman trailer spoke to me in a way a trailer hasn't spoken to me in a long time. It actually made me excited. I was still a tiny bit skeptical, but I went into Superman with the feeling that I was going to witness something really good. I was wrong. I witnessed something truly special. Spoilers ahead for the new Superman movie directed by James Gunn.
I don't know what dog you're talking about. Ugly dog, okay?
Superman is a movie about choices and how every single choice we make reflects on our character. Words don't matter. Actions and choices are what make someone who they are. The basis of this plotline is Superman's relationship to the planet and to his parents. Superman believes he is a good man because his parents told him he had to become one. This is unequivocally wrong, as most protagonists are at the beginning of their movies. Over the course of the film, and culminating in a truly moving and short monologue from Pa Kent, Superman realizes that it is his choices that make him Superman, not what his biological parents said he had to be. He is not beholden to them. The conversation between Pa Kent and Superman had me shed a few tears. Not just because it illustrates this beautiful theme perfectly, but also because it is a theme that touches at the crux of what makes Superman. Superman is the best of us. He is corny. He's absolutely an effing cornball. He's lame. He's a Boy Scout. But this is what makes him so awesome. He's a reflection of an idealized version of humanity. Superman's powers don't make him Superman. Superman's choices and his willingness to do good is what makes him the Man of Steel. Look at the Justice Gang. Yes, they have a turnaround at the end, but they are a bunch of assholes during the film. They have incredible powers and can handle cosmic threats. However, they don't have the moral compass of a Superman. It's not the powers that make Superman super. It's his hope, his belief that the fight's never lost, how every action we take is one that means something, how no one is ever lost, how doing the right thing is punk rock. One of my friends spoiled that line of dialogue for me before I saw the film, and I literally said, "Oh, I guess I'm gonna kill myself at the Alamo Drafthouse." It is one of the best damn lines in the movie. I love how earnest and corny this movie is. I believe and wanted to share the sentiment of Superman and how he saw the beauty in everything, how he saw goodness in everything, how he saw goodness in specifically Metamorpho, or in trying to convince the engineer to stop. This is the Superman from my favorite comics. This is the Superman that goes the extra mile and saves a fucking squirrel. That is one of the silliest and most beautiful things I've seen in a superhero movie. Superman saving a squirrel is exactly the most nonsense good action that dude would do in the middle of a kaiju battle. Not only because he can save nearly everyone and everything, but more importantly because it's the right thing to do. I could never imagine Guy Gardner in this film going out of his way to save a squirrel, and that's why I love the inclusion of the Justice Gang. It shows such a stark contrast both subtly and not subtly between Superman and other characters. I spent so long thinking about why this group of metahumans are even in the movie, and I realized they're part of a sliding spectrum of choices. You have the most evil characters in Ultraman, Luthor, and the Engineer. People who are evil and make bad choices. One could argue Ultraman is a glorified zombie, but I'm not getting into that right now. You then have the neutral metahumans like Metamorpho, Guy Gardner, or Hawkgirl, characters that only do the right thing when it's convenient or when they don't stand to lose something. Then you have Superman, the shining beacon of making good choices, of making the kind and corny choice. Those on the sliding spectrum either dig into their evilness or after interacting with Superman slide towards that Superman side of the scale. Superman just has that effect on people. You can't help but look at Superman and feel that endearment, feel that hope, feel how corny he is and just thank God he is cool. corny is cool. Superman is cool. I realize glazing Superman like this isn't necessarily cool, but I don't care. That's the Superman way. I've grown so tired of comic book movies trying to play to what they feel is the most general audience possible and trying to be quote-unquote cool. Giving us militarized comic costumes, giving us the lamest cliche one-liners, giving us truly boring slop. The most prime example of this is when that Titans clip of Robin saying "fuck Batman" was floating around. That clip turned me off from that show because it's so lame, which is the opposite of what they were going for, I'm sure. Yeah, saying "freak Batman" is really badass and edgy. God, I'm so much better than the Marvel children. I can handle mature and adult themes like saying the fuck word. Here's a question. When is the last time you've seen a superhero save a squirrel on screen? Never, because that's insane and I love it. It is so not cool. It is the opposite of that Titans clip. I've never seen Titans, but I'm sure that Robin would never try to save a squirrel. If anything, he'd throw a knife at it for fun. The squirrel scene is such a small little thing, but it captures the entire ethos of this film and this character. Going back to the through line of choices and how every choice matters and defines your character. I think James Gunn's opinion on this theme here is that it doesn't matter what choices you made in the past. All that matters is the next choice. Guy Gardner sucks. He's an arrogant asshole in the beginning of the film who's only in it for the recognition. Guy Gardner maybe cares about doing the right thing a little bit, but his refusal to go save Superman is him making a bad choice. But does that bad choice make him a bad person? Some may argue yes. And hell, with what I've seen Nathan Fillion say on the red carpet, he'd probably say he's still an asshole. However, the movie ends with him making a selfless, non-recognition motivated choice to involve himself in the Barovian War. All that matters is his last choice to stop the war and save civilians. He's still an imperfect guy, along with Hawkgirl, but they are both making decisions that reflect on their bettering character. Superman, if he let himself be defined by his parents, would either become evil or more likely give up. And that's a choice that he wrestles with during the film. He ultimately does not give up because he's fucking Superman. He is hope incarnate. He is truth. He is justice. He's the flickering of light as the sun rises. He's the last man standing against the Horde. He is one of my favorite characters, and James Gunn captured the absolute essence of this character. Another character that reflects the theming of choices is Metamorpho. He's a character that makes an understandable but poor choice to nearly kill Superman by holding kryptonite against him. Metamorpho's bad choices don't define him. If it did, he'd never change what he was doing, and Superman would eventually die. However, Metamorpho sees that his bad choices are making him a bad person, and leads to an innocent man dying. Metamorpho takes the kryptonite away and helps Superman because it's the right thing to do, even though he's risking his son. This also goes back to the core idea of the character being hope. Metamorpho has hope and belief that Superman can save his son. Why? Because he's Superman, that's why. Superman, again, as I said earlier, is that first flicker of light that beats back the darkness. If Superman can't do something, then truly, all hope is lost. That's the core idea of the character. James Gunn really captures the Superman effect. Superman just rubs off onto people the right way, and I don't mean that in a freaky way. Superman just makes everyone around him kinder and better, except for Lex Luthor. Mr. Terrific, Metamorpho, Hawkgirl, and Green Lantern are all better people by the end of the movie. This movie never goes out of its way to say this explicitly, which I love. It honestly reminds me of Dragon Ball and how Goku, through his sheer personality and innocence, changes those around him, making them better people. Superman does the exact same thing. Also, as the biggest Dragon Ball fan in the entire universe, Goku gets absolutely smoked in a 1v1 versus Superman. Dragon Ball fans, we have to drop this argument, it's not even close. I've only seen Superman once, and I've just barely scratched the surface of the theming on display from James Gunn. You have themes of immigration, what makes us human, and kindness that I won't even have time to thoroughly dive into. I've seen people say Superman is an empty film, and that is so far from the truth it is laughable. You can dislike how the movie executes these themes for sure, but to say this movie is hollow is an outright lie. Superman is in direct conversation nearly every second of its runtime. That might be a conversation about its central themes or a very funny Krypto joke. Either way, this movie was made for an audience and not in a pandering way. it wants to talk to you. I've got a few smaller points that I just want to briefly mention. My fascination and love of this film comes from the theming and the handling of the character of Superman. However, this film is excellently constructed. One of my favorite parts of this film is the score and the soundtrack. I think the score really plays into this feeling of hope and goodness. James Gunn is known for having these really good soundtracks in place of a distinct score, and this time it's the score that absolutely shines. Yes, there are a few needle drop moments that absolutely rule. Cough, Mr. Terrific, cough. But even that moment pales into comparison to how masterful the score is here. I'm going to give you my 3 favorite pieces really quick. I love the music that's playing during the Justice Gang kaiju fight. It really highlights the difference with what we've heard with Superman versus these new heroes. Again, that goes back to the difference I've been talking about between Superman and the Justice Gang. Superman has this really slow and epic, hopeful, uplifting music. And then the Justice Gang gets this fast, almost reckless sort of music that highlights how they operate. Again, Gunn is masterful in tying his theming and core concepts into every aspect of his filmmaking. The music that plays during the Barovia invasion scene is amazing. No notes, no further analysis. That slow guitar just rules. And lastly, the ending music. It's a short little number, but God does it emphasize that feeling of hope and that feeling of goodness. I mentioned a little ago Mr. Terrific's needle drop moment, and I want to use that as a bridge to discuss the action as a whole. The action in that sequence and in this movie is just great. I feel like it's not getting mentioned by people because it's very standard James Gunn fare, but standard James Gunn action is great action. His movies always have a way of using great camera work and music to enhance what would be a semi-standard sequence into something incredible. Also, pretty much every fight has some sort of interesting twist to it, be it Lex Luthor giving commands to Super Clone or the Justice Gang unable to attack the kaiju from the outside. Every combat has something a little different going on. It's never just two guys punching each other. And when it is that, Gunn adds different elements to make the fight unique and interesting. I think Lex Luthor giving commands makes every fight so interesting and enhances his character during sequences that really wouldn't affect him at all. Speaking of which, Lex Luthor is the single greatest hater we may have seen in cinematic history. This is of course until we see live action Reverse Flash in 5 years jerk off the regular Flash so he can't have sex with his girlfriend. If you think Luthor is a generational hater, you won't be prepared for Reverse Flash. It's like LeBron James compared to your uncle at the YMCA. It's not even close. I love how smart they make Lex in this movie. Having thousands of fight moves scripted and ready to go based off of studying Superman is such a cool way to show off our villain's threat level without him being a physical presence. I'm sure that's something that's been done in the comics, but I love how it's implemented here. I also love the subtle way they reveal that Ultraman is a clone by him being able to access the Fortress of Solitude because he had the same DNA as Superman. Nicholas Hoult also gives the definitive Lex Luthor portrayal. I love animated Lex's bassy resonance, but God, Nicholas Hoult makes his Lex Luthor emotional in such an interesting way. I love that Lex seems like such a normal billionaire until things go wrong, and then he just completely breaks down and holds on to his fleeting position of power like a desperate child. His monologue towards the end of the movie about envy completely captures the idea of Lex Luthor and why he hates Superman so much. Lex is a rare billionaire that is motivated by something more than just greed. He just truly hates Superman because he thinks Superman diminishes his place in the world. It's just excellent. I could keep going about 1,000 other aspects of this movie, but I want to leave some magic for those that haven't seen it and for those that want to rewatch it. The more I think about this film, the more that comes to me. The more hope and happiness I feel. This is a truly special film. Thank you, James Gunn.
What the hey, dude?
Okay, I'm gonna end the video in a weird way. I'm gonna have my little title card up. Whenever you get bored, just click another video to watch and leave a like and comment on the way out. However, I am going to do Lex Luthor's monologue from the end of the movie. Thanks for watching. Also, before I forget, join my Discord. It is pretty small right now, but I will happily glaze Superman with you if you decide to join. I'm aware that envy consumes my every waking moment. I know when they mention Galileo or Einstein or one of these other twits in the same breath as me, I feel a tide of vomit burn the back of my throat. But at least Galileo did something. He wasn't some dopey Venusian catapulted onto this planet just to have the world fawn over him, because his strength illuminates how weak we all really are. So my envy is a calling. It is the sole hope for humanity, because it is what has driven me to annihilate you. 1A! 1A! 1A!